that comes on pretty high cost, and attrition is still expected, which is expected when you hire a fresher as well. Then what institutions can do it, like what I have believed, like looked at, when you bring in all these students to a ground level, like when you do a ground level expectation management, because when the companies go at first level, they all are in air. Yeah. And then suddenly you realize after 1 year, they all have come to the ground. So they come with their own, like experiences, right? And bites and hits what they get into a market. And that's how they get grounded, and then they get into a job, whatever they get in front of them. So that's a mismatch, right? Company wanted them to hire at a certain timeline or a certain cost. They did not succeed. And they also did not succeed because their expectations were not realigned rightly. How do you think that institutions
Very right,
can
I'll
play
provide you an answer to this. You are speaking like an Indian company, let me tell you. You are speaking like a typical Indian company. And that's one of the ways to succeed in India, let me tell you this. I'll first share with you a case study, and then I'll answer what you have raised.
I'll also share with the global company's case study, which is globally number one or number two.
NASSCOM conducted a survey. Yeah. And the US people were very surprised when Indians started becoming very successful in IT field, right? And they started, and IT is not a very preferred career in US universities. And to the extent we have seen that even from institute like California Institute of Technology, we had visiting students, some 30 batch of 30 students, which is a very well-known institute. And we put them across along with 30 of our students from Hindustan College, which is one of our Mathura campuses. Just for a student get together, I was surprised by the difference in the quality of students. Our Indian students are far, far superior to the Californians. Far, far superior. Both in terms of skills, in terms of the knowledge of this thing. I was quite surprised. The lady who was coming from there, she was an Indian. NRI settled in US. She said because people don't prefer to come to IT, they don't think it's a very successful or attractive career.
I will interrupt.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that IT may not be a very preferred.
I'm coming to that. Why?
Interest in it, but I have a contradiction here.
No.
How do you explain that?
I will.
In the considering the likes of Facebook.
I will. That's where I'm
Twitter. These are preferred companies in the United States, and they need IT people.
They do. I agree. I am talking about there are three segments. One is a very high-end segment, where if you have an outstanding result, if you are making some new Java or a new .NET or some kind of a Microsoft innovation, you can pay that cost. But there is a middle-end solution or a low-end solution where you are software solution provider, where you require intellectuals who can provide the solution using the standard products which are available, using the languages, tools, platforms which are available. Creating a new platform or a new language, that's a very high-end kind of a job that doesn't happen every day. There, the kind of cost that is involved in developing that can be afforded by people at United States. So they are coming out with all kinds of original innovations. None has come from India, or very few have come from India. But what has been happening, that is what they have applied the same model even to the middle and low end jobs. So they'll hire somebody from Harvard or somebody from...
You're talking BPO, KPO kind
not
of...
BPO, a shade better than that, like TCS, what TCS is doing, what Infosys is doing, what Cognizant is doing. They are Harvard, somebody from Kellogg's or somebody from Harvard, or somebody from Stanford. And because those students will expect very high, the package has been raised from $3,000 to $10,000. Right in the beginning of $10,000, how do you get in software solution providing? So they have jacked up the requirements of the job, which that new guy is unable to do. So he feels frustrated, he's not able to deliver. He doesn't see a career progress, he leaves IT and goes to somewhere else. So those who have been doing like some Oracle or some Java or some this thing, who have been into this very high-end development, there they have been able to absorb that cost because the huge margins are there. But for these mid-segment jobs, our Indian students who get paid some 50,000 rupees after 2 or 3 years will do the same level of job which somebody getting $5,000 will be able to do. And there, because it's not something which can be automated to a great extent, it's an individual-driven, knowledge-driven sector, our solutions are as good as their solutions, and our costs are 1/4 of the cost of what would happen there. Therefore, we have got that. This is what has happened. Same applies to you. If you are looking for some very high-end consulting expert, you will get only at IIM Brain, you will hire for 50 lakhs per year or 60 lakhs per year and this thing. And this has created that expectations gap. But in institutes like ours who are positioned middle, you have upper level talent, you have middle level talent, we have very bottom level talent also, and our student expectations are not very high, starting from 1.8 lakhs per year to anywhere up to 6 lakhs per year. This is the range. The good ones will go for 6, the middle ones will go for 3.2, 3.3, and the lower ones will go for 1.8, and all of that 1.8 stuff will be suitable for the kind of facilities management you are looking forward to. And eventually you make them grow to 3 lakhs over 2-3 years or 4 years, they'll stay with you. So expectations management is something which we are very consciously doing. These boys, actually, most of the organizations are over-hiring in terms of talent. For operational jobs, you don't need that kind of talent. All you need is very smart work, a fair amount of soft skills, and maximum is that energy level and passion to actually deliver the results.
In fact, I'll take up this point here. In one of our previous dialogues, one of the points that came through was, while research and consulting and analytics, there has to be this intrinsic love of numbers. It is the intrinsic love of how to find the solutions out of the data that you're presented with. And this is not something that you can, the speaker had said, this is not something that you can teach. This has to be a passion that you bring. And how do you spot the passion? Do you agree? I thought this would be a good group.
Taking a step further, it's coming as a common stream across, like data analytics was the last session we had. And we said data analytics very strong, technically very strong, but can he weave a story for a client? Does he have that? Does he have the attitude? Can he put a 20-page presentation into 1 page? These are softer parts of the skills that either intervention happens at an organizational level, where that all great technical people will not be great leaders, like I said. So 95% of them fail. Super performer when he was an individual, but when he came to leading a team, all over the place.
We have a Tendulkar who was not a good captain.
Ready package. Common challenge. Ready package, not available. Great technically, maybe very strong as a leader, maybe not the technical skills. So somewhere, what we are realizing is, and like we are recruitment providers ourselves, we are recruitment providers are, that customization, for example, and what we realize is intervention is about that, whether it's academy or us, how can we connect more? So there's a life cycle of an employee that comes to your organization. You have 36% attrition, probably because he was not capable or he didn't enjoy the job that he was doing. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'm saying one of the options.
Or he gets more money.
So, for example, there was a study that 70% people leave organizations because they don't enjoy the job. Or you would have let them go, or they would have multiple opportunities with other organizations.
80% of them get into a job, not planned.
Right.
They get into a job by default.
Exactly.
So the reason, because they want a job and they want to get into something. So they keep searching initial 2-3 years, is this really their cup of tea or not?
I would challenge.
So even I would disagree, because I think one important point here I like to make is if he's talking of 36%, a lot of that attrition will happen because they want the JLL stamp on their CV. That's right. Okay, which will help them get another job somewhere else. So they don't mind the salary, they don't mind whatever they come in, they'll do it. Now if JLL can spot that talent from there and say, okay, I want to retain this only, whatever, 40% or 50%, I don't want the rest. So the same problem we also have. They want the KPMG stamp on their CV. So they want that 1-2 year and then they get a job somewhere else. So whether it's industry or any other consulting firm. But I think the important point is that when we talk of consulting careers, very important, I think the point that you raised is, it is about connecting the dots. When you get all the, you see what we get today, we get a lot of data, but very little information today.
Yes.
So data is ample available today. You can take out any amount of data you want, and all people think they're giving you information, but they're actually giving you data. Because if you have got information, you can take decisions with that information, and that's the problem. And if the people can actually take that data and convert it into information, give it meaningful kind of analysis, today you're looking for some answers. So it's not necessarily good with numbers, but how you're able to connect the different aspects and say, okay, now this is what it means. I think that's the skill set that in consulting firms they're looking for, or people will pay for it. And somebody heard value addition and all this I've been hearing. So that's when that value addition comes in and clients pay for that. Then you get a premium pricing. And then when your product gets. The other point that I think is that most of us have become, we live in a very global world today. And there's an expectation that the person will behave in a similar fashion. So somebody comes from another part of the world, he'll expect it there, and and so I think we need to see how globalized a normal Indian student is, in terms of the experience he gets, and it's not about education only. it's about culture, it's about the way you're brought up, or the experiences. I won't even say the way you're brought up. It's experiences you provide that individual, because you learn with experiences. And as you find people who go out of the country or who go and live in outside their homes, because by nature we are very protected as Indians, very protected home, and we live in the confines, parents, everything else. So when we're thrown out into the world, we just don't know how to survive because of that. So I think that's another area which we need to look at, and that's something that we try to inculcate into our people, that as they come in, because even we hire very senior people, and then we're looking for completely different skill sets at that point of time. When we hire juniors or we hire graduates or we hire B school people, so then you're looking at different skills at that point of time. But you can't take away the basic qualities, energy, passion. You can't take it. If you're not passionate, I mean, there is no way that person can succeed. There is no way. Because if you want somebody to succeed, because I'm very clear, people generally operate at 90% of their ability. So if you want to get that 100%, they need to love the work they're doing. And so it is not about, so whichever area you're putting, so generally when you sit with people, we just put them where we want them. We don't go and ask them. For example, we had so many service lines. And you're like, I know you've been audit. No, he doesn't like audit. So he's not going to succeed. So he may like something else. So if you give him something else, so that's one reason why you find one individual not doing well in one similar type of company and doing well somewhere else, because that person found his calling, and gave him the opportunity to shine. So I think it's also giving the person. So I don't think, honestly, it's the school, it's this thing, it's the person's experiences and environment which get him there. And one, I just want to, you did say about the student, the value, because when we compare to man, I think the Indians are as good or maybe better than the Western counterparts. But I think where they score out to us is the way they plan, the way they put their things together, because they get paid for, because there's a much larger value to the service they deliver. Here, you get paid much less. So you're like a machine, tuck, 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 you keep working. So you're not able to devote too much time into that. They're able to, so they do a lot of thinking, a lot of planning before they put it. So the one thing that we can learn from them is how well planned they are, how well they come across in this thing. Indians will be smarter in analytics, very smarter in all those. That's why you find all, and even McKinsey Knowledge Center, all analytics skills sit in India. So, and the new trend that we are seeing in consulting at least is, in the Big Four I'm saying, is that like in IT, I think the largest hub of talent is going to come from India now.
That's true.
Because they are building all their back offices, and it's not back office in that sense, but it's consultants being built in there who will provide services all across the world. So you're going to see that new trend happening. So because of the cost pressures and the no lack in talent, India has huge talent. So India can actually become that big sourcing hub of the best talent. I mean, so that's the new trend that we are seeing.
And Richard, if I'm not mistaken, KPMG has a model like that
we have the
already.
delivery center. So
So
all the 4 firms have.
I think we reached to the Peter's point very quickly in India than the people from abroad. That we think, even if you pass out from the college, we think that we have arrived. Hence the expectations are so high that, as Sunil said, that it becomes very difficult for us to kind of take them inside. But if you set the expectation at that level, I'm sure we can do much better than anybody on this globe.
And if you look at, and if you go and look at the attrition levels, you'll always find that attrition out of 36, I'm sure that 30% would be coming from the rock bottom. Another 6% would be on the middle level. So the attrition level, so challenge is only at grassroots level. Like if you look at, that's where you need bench, that's where you need to train the people, that's where you need to build the skill pool. And so that's where the business schools as well as organizations, those who goes to recruit, and expectation not in terms of money, in terms of role as well, in terms of role and responsibility as well. Expectation doesn't mean that I'll get 5 lakhs or I'll get 10 lakhs or I'll get 15 lakhs. Also because it's been taught to them that you'll become manager, you'll get a cabin and you'll just sign the check and
that's what they believe. That's what they believe. But,
at your level, at the college level, definitely we recommend, and we are involved with Jaipuria. So we go there, give them classes and tell them that what is our expectations. So we have hired people. We couldn't hire a single guy last year, but we hired a couple of them this year because we told them what exactly do we do, and exactly what will you do, and it becomes very easy for us to kind of hire them post that. And we will be more than happy to kind of help you out with
One
that.
of the things that I would like to hear from this group is, when you go and hire, when you're recruiting talents fresh out of college, how do you set that expectations? What is it that you are expecting from them, so that, and how do you communicate with them? Because somewhere what I'm hearing is there's a mismatch. They think they're coming in as, I've done my MBA, I'm ready to be a manager, but somewhere in the industry you're not ready to be a manager. You spend.
I think that's very important.
And I think I would like to. Yeah, please.
Can I just add one point to what Richard said, because it's something that I believe that we do well at Mercer, which is that when we hire individuals, whether it's someone from campus or a lateral hire, so it could be someone with 7-10 years of experience, we've experienced that every consultant, and I'm talking about true blue-blooded consultant, would have a natural inclination towards either being someone who loves to be close to the client, managing relationships, networking, endearing yourselves to a stranger, it doesn't matter, you just love talking to people and meeting them. That's one kind of a consultant. The other kind of a consultant is someone who actually may not want to network, but just wants to build content, build thought leadership, become a subject matter expert. And I think it's extremely important to understand their aspiration before getting the individual on board, and then to be able to deliver on that expectation. And as an organization, therefore, you have to be able to provide those career paths to individuals to say, if that's your aspiration, here is how we can help you in your, in your learning journey or in what you want to do in your career. And I think the other part around leadership skills, I don't think that traditionally, and this is, I think this is particularly